Hey guys, this is Jay Snow, and we have Nissa's Eldrazi party. So what we have here is a Nissa Eldrazi deck, and it's pretty interesting, pretty fun, and it gets the job done. So what we have here is Nissa vastwood seer, which will be our commander. So when she enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic forest card, and she flips over when you play a forest when you have 7 or more lands. And when she flips over, the first ability, which is the main ability you're going to be using, is reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it on the battlefield. Otherwise, put it in your hand. The last two abilities are almost irrelevant, but they are playable. But you should be able to get this off just once or twice, and you really shouldn't be even relying on Nissa for this deck. It's kind of just there to trick your opponent. But the ramp from the +1, I mean the card draw from the +1 is pretty awesome. Anyways, so let's go into the meat and the bones of the deck. So this is basically a creature-based deck. You're going to be using cards to ramp up with Forest, and it basically just comes down to overpowering your opponent with Eldrazi's and tons of land. So our first card is Planeswalker Ugin the Spirit Dragon. So this is a fun card to use. The only thing is you have to be careful of its -X ability because it exiles all colored permanents, and you will be running a couple enchants as well as a few irrelevant colored permanents, other than the Zendikar plant dude that I'll show you in a couple minutes. So you just want to watch out for that. But otherwise, he's a pretty good planeswalker. Does deal 3 damage to anything, and his ultimate is also pretty good. Right, for lands, we have Eldrazi Temple, self-explanatory. We have Temple of the False God, another self-explanatory. Spawning Bed, which you can you'll need for the colorless mana, but you can sacrifice it for some Eldrazi spawns. Seagate Wreckage. I've been deciding if I actually want to keep Seagate Wreckage or not. So you can draw a card if you have no cards in hand, but for some reason I seem to always have cards in my hand, so he might be dumped for another forest. I'm calling land a he like it has a gender. I just assumed it's gender. Sanctum of Ugin is a card when you cast a colorless spell, you can sacrifice it and get a 7 or greater Eldrazi and put it into your hand. So that's pretty nice. Tomb of the Spirit Dragon, also for colorless mana, and you can also gain life for one life for each colorless mana you control, colorless creature you control. Basically a budget card. You can add a waste instead. I'd actually suggest adding a waste instead. I might do that, just so you can get out the colorless Eldrazi's either. Jun Paramora, can't even say it. It's just another Evolving Wilds. Rogue Passage to make your Eldrazi's unblockable. Blighted Woodlands, you can ramp up with this card, so for 4 mana you can sacrifice it and get 2 basic lands and put them onto the battlefield tapped. Evolving Wilds. Terramorphic Expanse. What? Yeah, I know, I'm in the middle of something. Oh. I have Ugin, so this is basically self-explanatory, but it's a must-have because it reduces all colorless Eldrazi cards you have. So we run a single waste. You can run 2 wastes, but you shouldn't need more than 2. So just a basic waste that you can search out. Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, because once you have 7 lands, this becomes a 2 mana, 2 mana land. Then we run, if I can just get all of them out, we run 23 forests, which is quite a lot, but it's definitely needed. So we're just going to move those to the side. And then we're going to get into the creatures. So Artesian of Kozilek. This card basically reanimates, or if that's the right word I should be using, returns target creatures to the battlefield and has Annihilator 2. For 9 cost and a 10/9, this is probably one of the most powerful cards you can have in this deck. And it only costs like $1 or something like that. I think even cheaper. Desolation Twin is another budget Eldrazi, like 50 cents, and it summons another copy of the card, so 2 10/10s for 10. Kozilek the Grace Distortion, so this card can be a little bit hard to get out, but for the most part, it's pretty easy to get out, and it's not that bad, and you can draw some cards from it. Of course, if you can afford Kozilek the Butcher of Truth, I think that's what it's called, then you'd probably get that card instead of this one, but that's, it's going $5 for this and then $20 for the other one, so we're trying to keep this a little bit more budget friendly. Speaking of budget friendly, a not budget friendly card is Ulamog the Ceaseless Hungerer, but it's a must have. It's only like $10 right now, and it's going to rotate out of standard, so it's going to get even cheaper for a little bit. I assume the card will go back up. But Ulamog is self-explanatory, does some exiling, and mill top 20 if it attacks, and exiles them. World Breaker can be returned from the hand, and you can, destroy target artifact or enchantment or land. It That Betrays, this is a great card. So for 12 mana, it has Annihilator 2, and whenever your opponent sacrifices a creature, non-land, non-token permanent, you put that onto the battlefield under your control. So basically, it has Annihilator, you start attacking, the opponent starts sacrificing stuff, you get to take all the permanents. By the time you probably do this, you're probably winning the game. Breaker of Armies, budget, Eldrazi, there's plenty of replacements for this, but basically any Eldrazi that's not hitting him. He's only like a couple cents, so he was just thrown in because he's decent. Fierce Empath, so this is an interesting card. So for 3 mana, he basically searches out tutors out a 6 mana card. So you can just get an Emrakul or a Ulamog for 3 and put into your hand. So he's pretty good. Kozilek's Predator allows you to add some Eldrazi spawns. So he's decent. Endbringer allows you to draw cards, ping for some damage, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Definitely a good card to have onto the battlefield. You're basically going to be using his effects and not really attacking with him. Thought-Knot Seer, so you can grab a card from the hand. He'll probably die pretty quickly though, but he is a mid-range card. Pelvuka Worm. Now you're probably wondering why I run this. It's cheap, it's effective, and it's funny to just run this random card. So it has Trample. When it enters the battlefield, it gains 7 life. You gain 7 life, and when it dies, you draw a card. And it costs 7, and it's a 7/7. So a lot of 7s in there. And the 7 life is basically what you're playing it for, and the body's very great. Next we have Reality Smasher, self-explanatory card. Oblivion Sower, another self-explanatory card. Emrakul, the Promised End. I haven't been able to use this, but I think it's pretty funny to be able to use your opponent's cards against them, so definitely an interesting card to use. Maybe I'll get it off, but otherwise it's a flying, trample, and protection from instants for 13/13 for 13. So it's easy to get out, and definitely probably fun to use to control your opponents. This card, Bane of Balaged, basically has Annihilator 2. Doesn't say Annihilator 2, but basically does. Mockery of Nature. Destroys target artifact or enchantment, but it's a 9 cost for a 6/5. So it does have a merge, but it's good to have a body and some artifact and or enchantment destruction. So I have ran this. It has been usable. It may seem like a lot for this card, but it's definitely very great to have since we don't have that many artifact destruction cards or enchantment destruction cards. Conduit of Ruin reduces mana cost of creatures by 2, and you can search out a colorless creature card and put it on the top of your library with 7 or greater. So that's definitely a great card. Next one is Void Winnower. Your opponent can't cast or block or attack with even number spells or creatures. Jade Eye Offshoot, since you'll be ramping a lot, you'll be getting a lot of health off of that. Life. Acidic Slime, Death Touch, and destroys artifact, enchantment, or land for about 5. Corsair Crufus, another life gainer, and you can play the top card of your library if it's a land, so it allows you to cycle out your deck. Burnished Heart, definitely replaceable. It's mana ramp, but it's not really needed since you'll have a lot of it. I just couldn't think of anything else. Pathrazor of Ulamog, so I surprised somebody with this, and it's pretty funny because it has Annihilator 3. It does cost 11, it's a 9/9, but it can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures, and it's just an awesome looking card. Decimator of Promises, so you can actually combo this, so this gets +2/+2 and trample to all creatures until the end of turn, and it has trample and haste, and it's a 10 cost. And then you have Avenger of Zendikar. So Avenger of Zendikar summons a whole bunch of plants, and then landfall gives the plants a +1/+1 counter. So if you have a bunch of lands in the field, basically you play Avenger of Zendikar, get about 10 plants or something ridiculous, and then next turn you would Decimator of Promise, and they all have +2/+2 and trample, and then you could swing for game, depending on how many plants you have. Alright, now on to the sorceries. Boundless Realms, this is a fun card that basically doubles your mana. Don't want to make the video too long, so I'm just going to say it doubles your mana. Cultivate searches for 1, puts 1 in your hand, basic land. Harmonize, draw 3 cards. Creeping Mold, destroy artifact, enchantment, or land. Kind of bad actually in this deck. I just couldn't think of another card for naturalize. A different card for naturalize. So if you guys know any cards that were, like a 2 mana cost artifact destruction, then I'd rather replace that with that. But otherwise it works. Nissa's Revelation, scry 5, then reveal the top card. If it's a creature card, draw cards equal to the power, and you gain life equal to its toughness. So this could get a little bit crazy if you get an Olamog on top by accident. So, you can gain a ton of life, but you'll have a lot of cards left over. Nissa's Pilgrimage, basically self-explanatory, just grabs a bunch of cards. Lay of the Land, grab a card, grab a forest, put it into your hand. Explore, draw a card, and you can play additional land. Ranger's Path, search for 2 forests. Rampant Growth, search for a forest or a waste. Animist Awakening, basically search for lands, and every land you search with this for X, you get to put onto the battlefield. Explosive Vegetation, search for some lands. Growth Spasm, search for a land, and then put a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi token onto the battlefield. Sylvan Scrying, very great card, you can search for any land in your deck. Naturalize. This is Renewal, allows you to put 3 basic land cards onto the battlefield tapped, and then you gain 7 life. Hour of Promise, one of the new cards that came out. Basically, you can search for any land and put it tapped for 5 mana for 2 lands. So, of course, if you want to get out Eye of Ugin and Eldrazi Temple in 1 turn, then Hour of Promise is your guy. And he's only like $2 or less. Ancient Stirrings allows you to search for a colorless card. Zendikar's Resurgence, one of the MVPs of this, deck. Basically doubles your mana. Every time you tap a land, you can get a color that the land taps for, so you get double mana. And whenever a creature spell you cast, you draw a card. Absolutely awesome. Alright, since we get into the last ones, we'll just go like this. Elemental Bond, whenever a creature 3 or greater, you draw a card. Awakening Zone puts tokens during your upkeep. Retreat to kazaandu. You gain life every time you put a land, or you can put a counter. This is another land ramp, khalni art expedition. Zendikar's Roil puts tokens onto the battlefield and has landfall, basically. From Beyond is the same as Awakening Zone. Get some tokens. Lignify, you're probably wondering why I run this. I couldn't think of anything else to run. It makes a creature 0/4 tree folk with no abilities. I've been able to use it on people's commanders, so it's been pretty funny. So, Lignify, yeah. Nature's Claim for artifact destruction. Scour from existence to exile target permanent. Pulse of Murasa, very great card. You get to return a card from your graveyard, land or creature card from your graveyard, and gain 6 life for just 3. Elixir of Immortality. You can actually deck out in this deck, or get pretty close to it, so being able to shuffle your graveyard back into the deck is definitely important. Soul Ring, because it's Soul Ring. Swiftfire Boots for hexproof. Mind Stone, because it's just a budget mana rock. Expedition Map allows you to search for any, any card in any land in the deck. And then Darksteel Ignot for add 1 mana of any color to the pool. So, overall with this deck, you basically just want to get your Eldrazi's in line and overswarm the opponent. The big counter to this deck is board wipes, so if you know you're playing against board wipes, try to just leave like 2 big Eldrazi's on the field and work with that. Don't try to put a lot of them onto the field, and then just work around that. I was able to win a game just because I was able to actually return some Eldrazi's back. I got board wiped twice, but was still able to make a comeback with this deck. So, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe for more Magic the Gathering videos. I mostly do Magic the Gathering openings, not deck techs, so who knows when the next deck tech will be. And if you guys have any questions about the deck, feel free to leave it in the comments below. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.